Now, can I say all protocol observed? Because I know we have a former, Dr. Nyenga. Am I permitted to call you a former politician or a politician?
No, I was part of the secretariat, the technocrats.
Okay, we have a former, and now I'm losing the words now. But we have someone that works within the political arena. So I would say all protocol observed. And now let's get to the detail. So today, the webinar is about self-awareness. We are looking at it as a key, a vital key for self-mastery. And one of the things that when I was reading and preparing for today's webinar, I came across is that they say for you to change the world outside, you must first fix the world inside. And so, in as much as we are postgraduate student and we are doing all kinds of things, it is very, very important we try to understand ourselves. And so, our presenter today is Dr. Josiah Nyenda. Let me quickly. Next. Yes. So that is our presenter and the good doctor. Pardon me that I had to use the red gown. So I did this intentionally to creep up enthusiasm in our postgraduate honors, masters, and the PhDs so that they can get it as quickly as possible. So Dr. Nyenda is a former high school teacher. I was talking about politics because he's a director. He was the director of the Hansard at the Parliament of Zimbabwe, and the Hansard is where all the parliamentary recordings and archives are kept. And he was also an English editor of the Pan-African Parliament. So he has something to do with Parliament. Hey, so I think, and then he also worked with the South African Development Corporation Parliamentary Forum. And then he got a general degree, honors, masters of English from the University of Zimbabwe. And Wits gave him the edge. So he's a Witsi. So he got his PhD from Wits. He's a lecturer, a colleague that worked within critical thinking in the Faculty of Engineering, the Built Environment, and specifically with the Academic Development Unit. And he's passionate about reading and writing, and he's currently writing an anthology of short stories inspired by the COVID-19 lockdown. His other anthology of stories titled Those Little Things and Other Stories is being published by Zimbabwe Publishing House. So without further ado, Dr. Nyenda, please, your people, Dr. Nyenda, let's just welcome the good professor. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Desmond. I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation with you guys because I have some slides that I'll be sharing with you as I speak. So let me do that now. Let's see if okay. Right, I hope you guys are able to see my PowerPoint presentation. Am I right, Desmond?
It's not here yet, but we are waiting for it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I can also please ask that we turn off our microphones and cameras, please, so that we can give the professor. Yes, go ahead, sir.
All right. Let me see if you guys are able to see my PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if hide share options. All right. Let me see here. All right. Can you see the slides now?
No. Can anyone see the slides? If someone can see it and I can see it, just alert us.
Not yet. I think what you can do is request for control from Desmond, because I'm thinking it's Desmond's screen which is still up.
Good.
Oh, yes.
I think you should see it now. Apologies, sir.
Thank you. Is it up now?
Not yet.
What's happening with my technology here? Right here, options. No actions, let's see here.
We apologize for the technical glitches. We're fixing it, so please kindly bear with us.
Just bear with me, guys. I should be able to.
Yes, we got you. That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you
Sure.
very much. But once again, thank you, Desmond, for the introduction and for hosting me. And thank you, colleagues and all postgraduate students participating in this webinar. It is an honor and privilege to be part of this exciting exchange of ideas. More so at a time that we are gradually moving back and forward into a new normal. That is, if at all we will ever have the word normal as a standalone adjective and noun. Going forward, we may need to always remind ourselves that there exists a new and an old normal. I wonder if this means that we have to do away with the word abnormal, seeing as though the abnormal is and will always become the new normal. And I'm glad that we are about to get into level 1. Anyway, when Desmond shared with me the full topic for today's discussion, which is the self-awareness, the vital key to authentic self. Self-awareness, the vital key to authentic self. For a moment, I thought that the person who drafted this topic should have taken up the cudgel to present today anyway, because they knew what they were talking about and they had an idea of what I was going to talk about. The way the topic is crafted denotes art and creativity. You know, the way the artist's paintbrush moves on the canvas, left, right, up and down, back and forth. This is what this topic is doing, and I'll explain. The word key is strategically placed in the topic. Deliberately so, I think, because the word key is actually the key word in the topic. Not self-awareness, not authentic self. The word key becomes the key word in the topic. Yes, we are supposed to discuss self-awareness as a soft skill and quality we all need in life, be it in class, doing research, at work, home, church, in relationships, in any field of work or sports, in politics, etc. The need for self-awareness can never be overemphasized. Because without knowledge of the self, you cannot move. You are restricted. Self-awareness puts you back into the driving seat of your own life, enabling you to be happier, to find and do the kind of work you would love to do, and to have a true sense of purpose. But you see, For you to achieve that, you need a key to unlock the door so that you enter that stage and journey of self-discovery. That is why I said the word key is what struck and stuck in my mind and eye when I read the topic. It presupposes that you are jammed. The word key presupposes that you are jammed. You are locked. You are entangled. I think the word entanglement means a lot to different people, given what happened in America with some of these celebrities. And you need a key in order to discover the authentic self. When you are jammed, locked and entangled, you need a key in order to discover the authentic self, to discover who you truly are. But let me pose some thought-provoking and mind-probing questions. Is it really important to know thyself? If the answer is yes, how do we embark on the journey of self-discovery? And in any sense, are we prepared to know and face the real us, the real you, the authentic self? Are we ready to face that? The word key, for me really, invoked William Blake's poem London, wherein he talks about mind-forged manacles. And I'm sharing with you a slide that shows on the left of my screen an image of a person with manacles and shackles on his head. And on the right of my screen, there is another image of books, of phone, laptop, also entangled in shackles. A manacle is a metal chain or a shackle for fastening and binding a person's hands or ankles. It is usually used to restrict and restrain prisoners. But mind-forged manacles, in the case of Blake's poem, refers to the self-imposed and self-inflicted restrictions and limitations we place and set for ourselves in terms of our goals, our dreams, and aspirations. And these are a consequence of our mindset, of our fears, opinions about ourselves. We limit ourselves based on these factors, and we end up limiting what we can do. But you see, this is worse in a multimedia generation where we are daily confronted by invisible pressure from all over. And I'm sharing a slide that is different social media platforms. You cannot hold this pressure, but you feel it. It is all over you and overwhelming. Rat Mameka, in the foreword to Emma Sue Ellen's book, 7 Skills for the Future, said in medicine and indeed in other professions, and I include engineering here, we are heading through life we are grappling with a complex, demanding, and stressful existence. The tectonic plates of technology advances can be exhausting and overwhelming. There is generally a feeling of an ever-increasing pressure to do better, live longer, be healthier, earn more, and be more successful. And multimedia has not helped the situation. We find ourselves captured by different social media platforms that speak this gospel of success, that speak this message of what it means to have achieved something. And the words that I want to highlight in Ratmamekar's quotation are hurting, as in H-U-R-T, grappling, complex, demanding, stressful, tectonic, exhausting, overwhelming, pressure, successful. How do these words impact your life at an individual level? What kind of pressure do you experience whenever you come across these words? When you're on social media and your colleagues and friends are posting videos on their status, and you find yourself watching these videos, what happens to your mind at an individual level? Still on external pressure, how often do we hear the statement, life is about the choices we make? And you're made to feel guilty when you make certain choices. And at an individual, remember, we are driving towards self-awareness. And at an individual level, when you make personal decisions, how does society respond to that? And by society, I'm referring to family. I'm referring to partners. I'm referring to friends. I'm referring to work colleagues. Because remember, peer pressure knows no age, by the way. Even at my age, I call myself a dinosaur whenever I talk to students. I'm a victim of peer pressure. Only that it now comes at different levels, even probably more demanding pressure at my stage, because of the things that I have achieved or appear to have achieved and what society expects of me. When I interact with colleagues on social media, with former schoolmates, what kind of pressure do we put on each other? That's why I'm saying peer pressure knows no age. And if you keep that in mind, you are gradually moving towards what I'm driving at, which is self-awareness. And in his book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an FK, you know, it's uses a four-letter word. A counterintuitive approach to living a good life. Mark Manson, and this is actually an international bestseller. This book has sold over 1 million copies. Mark Manson said, it has become an accepted part of our culture today to believe that we are all destined to do something truly extraordinary. Celebrities say it, business tycoons say it, politicians say it, and I happened to work with politicians for a long time. Oprah Winfrey says it, so it must be true. Each and every one of us can be extraordinary. We all deserve greatness, close quote. This is Mark Manson saying. But he goes further to say that this statement is inherently contradictory. Because if everyone were extraordinary, then by definition, no one would be extraordinary because it means we are all the same. If all of us are destined to be extraordinary, and if all of us were extraordinary, then by definition, there's no one who is extra. We are the same. But instead of questioning what we actually deserve and don't deserve, we eat this message up, hook, line, and sinker, and we even ask for more because that's what social media does, what society does on us, and we become victims of this kind of pressure. This constant stream of unrealistic media and inspirational speakers piles onto our existing feelings of insecurity. It exposes us to the unrealistic standards we fail to live up to most of the time because of pressure. But in the face of social media, citizen journalism, and fake news, how do you make sure that you remain calm and sane? Know thyself. Nothing beats self-awareness. But the question is, how do you get to know yourself? And the key word is how. I'm sharing with you an exercise that has worked for me. In the slide with the heading Destiny, Cause, and Calling, this exercise has worked for me. There are many theories and recipes, even prescriptions, about gaining self-awareness. But one thing for certain, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to understand is that existentialism tells us that we are all unique. We are different in our own way, in a world where we have to survive by any means necessary. Going forward in my discussion, I'll be sharing with you examples from my personal life so that this journey of self-discovery does not remain abstract. The exercise I'm sharing with you, Destiny, Cause, and Calling Principle, has 3 questions that in your spare time you would need to answer. The first question is, who am I? Ask yourself this question, who am I? And in answering this question, I would urge you to come up with at least 5 words and at most 7 words that describe you. I have written something down that describes me. I said creative, compassionate and or empathetic, analytical, patient, open-minded. I could add probably the word curious. These are the words that define me, that describe me as a person. When you have come up with these words that describe you, 5 minimum, maximum 7, let's work with that range for now. You could come up with 10, but later on, as you continue doing the exercise, you'll discover that some of the words that you have included are subordinate to the dominant words that describe you as a person, your character, your personality. With these 5 words, pardon? All right, so I heard some voices coming.
Please,
Right.
Chidozi, can you please turn off your mic, please? Chidozi, can you please turn off your mic?
Yeah.
All right. When you have come up with these 5 to 7 words that describe your character and personality, you need to use these words to guide you to answer the second question, which says, why am I on earth? Using the 5 to 7 words, answer the question, why am I on earth? You look at those words deeply, reflect on them, digest them, unpack their meaning. And from the meanings you get, then answer the question, why am I on earth? I simply said to fulfill my destiny. And I'll be explaining later on, to fulfill my destiny. If I am on earth to fulfill my destiny, if that's the reason why I'm on earth, then I should use that reason and the 5 to 7 words to answer the third question, what am I doing about it? In my case, I am teaching. I am teaching. I started discovering myself in junior school. My creative impulse started showing in grade 4 when we were asked to write a story titled My Journey Home. When our teacher marked and returned the books, she asked me to go and read the story to senior grades, that is grade 7s. There was no library at my school, my primary school. But I always troubled the deputy headmaster to lend me novels that were in his office until the school established a small library, just for convenience. I think it was a strategy just to make me shut up. In junior secondary school, Form 2 in particular, which would be grade 9 here in South Africa, I led the establishment of a young writers club at my school and became the first president of that club. In grade 10, which would be Form 3 in my case, I was part of the group that launched the Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe in the capital city, Harare, in particular at the University of Zimbabwe, and was the youngest participant at that workshop that established Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe. I then went on to become, in the same year, the treasurer for the Gweru chapter of Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe. Gweru is the third largest city in Zimbabwe. The Minister of Education then, Fei Chung, was at the launch of Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe. So Professor Misere Mugo, Ngugi wa Miri, and other prominent writers and academics, sharing my work with these big names like Thomson Tsodzo, who is also a professor and a prominent writer back home, opened my mind to criticism and nurtured, cultivated, and watered my creative impulse and character. But it did not end there. While I was on this journey of self-discovery, my mother wanted me to be a medical doctor. Yeah, she wanted me to be a medical doctor. But the truth is, and most of the students I teach know this because I tell them, I was very bad at sciences. The periodic table confused me. Up to now, I don't even know how to balance chemical equations. But my mother saw a doctor in me, a medical doctor. My school also was putting pressure on me. I was in the A class. You know, most of our classes are streamed A, B, C, D. And this class, this was the so-called cream of the school. And math and sciences were used to measure your intelligence. And here I was, an arts-oriented person in that particular class. So I felt the pressure. I could not stand the heat. What did I do? I approached my secondary school headmaster, the late Mr. Kututwa, may his soul rest in peace. And I made a bizarre request to be moved from the A class to either the B or C class. These classes were not doing sciences major. This was bizarre because it was every student's dream to be in the A class. It was prestigious to be in the A class. And there were privileges that came with belonging to that class. But he refused and told me that I would remain in the A class. He even took the time to come and address that class. And he told us how important we were and reminded us that we were the cream of the school. But you see, at that time, I was not aware of this principle of destiny, cause, and calling. I was this naive boy who was responding to the pressure of being a student and a child. The point being, if you look back into your personal history, you will see moments of revelation, moments of brilliance that define who you are today, or moments of brilliance whose influence you may have ignored, and you look back either with regret or with satisfaction and say, had I. But there could also be moments of failure, moments of falling that you experienced. And you harvested something from those moments. I said, I am on, what am I doing about it? I am teaching. As an answer to the third question, I am teaching. I started teaching others when I was still a high school student. At that time, you know, we used to write University of Cambridge examinations at the time before we localized the examinations. English language was a nightmare for many students who would fail the subject at ordinary level, which is Form 4. And that would be grade 11 here. Most would have to write the English language examination for the second, third, or fourth time in order to pass. But you see, the English language was some kind of a bottleneck, a filter that was used for gatekeeping, because without it, you would not go anywhere. Proceeding to A level or going to college or applying for a job required 5 O-level subjects, including English language. So I started helping others whilst I was still a student. And helping others made me discover my love for teaching. Even when I changed jobs and joined the parliament, and I can make a confession here, it was a very powerful position. Being director of Hansard in the Parliament of Zimbabwe was a very powerful position. Being English desk editor at the Pan-African Parliament, equally powerful. English desk editor at the SADC Parliamentary Forum, equally powerful positions. But even as I worked with politicians and parliamentarians, I kept saying I would end my career in the lecture theater. I had been a high school teacher before and enjoyed my 10 years as a high school teacher before I joined the parliament as part of the secretariat. But even as I held that position, I kept telling myself I would end my career in the lecture theater, and it happened. Tell about teaching. I remember when I taught at a private school back in Zim called Watershed College, we held a staff development workshop. And during that workshop, the headmaster then, Dr. John Bradshaw, said, imagine yourself dead. Write down what you think your students would write on your epitaph, on your tombstone. What message would they write? Your students, all the students you have taught, what would they write? So we're given 30 minutes to just sit on your own and reflect and think of what your students would write on your tombstone as your epitaph. I did not wait to sit and think. I still was in contact, and I still am in contact with a lot of students that I have taught. So I went into my office at Watershed College and phoned. I intended to phone 10. I ended up phoning 11 students and said, guys, I just want you to be frank, be honest, be brutally honest with me. Tell me, what would you write as my epitaph? You can imagine the flowery language. You can imagine the beautiful adjectives they gave me describing me. Because, of course, I was talking to them directly over the phone anyway. But based on what they told me, I wrote down every response at that time. It is that response which then gave me this answer to question number 2, why am I on earth? To fulfill my destiny. Because when I analyzed and unpacked the 11 responses they had given me, I concluded that my students would write on the epitaph, here lies a man who fulfilled his destiny. I said, oh, so this is how I have impacted. If we have time, I might actually share a message that came from one of my students at some point this year when he sent me a message just thanking me for the impact that I have had in his life. Then there's another exercise that you might want to do on your own, where you just write the what, why, and the purpose exercise, where you say, I am studying, and then you complete that sentence, whatever you're studying, the program and so forth, whatever you're researching on. I am studying, then you write an answer to that to complete the sentence. In order to, why are you studying it? So that, and then you complete. So that you try and discover yourself through even the studies that you're doing. I am studying chemical engineering, researching on this and that in order to, so that I can, so you discover what you're doing, why you're doing it, and your purpose in life. Right. Then we have the bank statement theory. I'm almost done. We have what I have decided to call the bank statement theory. I'll share with you some of my experiences. I just call it a theory because I find it funny, the bank statement theory. We all have bank accounts, and you are able to print your bank statement. Your bank statement is one document that can help you discover yourself. You can discover a part of yourself that you have been ignoring or that you have not been aware of, or through a bank statement. This is what happened. My financial advisor at some point said, we're talking, just print your bank statement, take a hard copy, print a hard copy. Take it home and take a red highlighter. He specifically mentioned red color. Take a red highlighter. Go through your bank statement. Highlight in red every expense that you could have avoided, which was unnecessary. Just every expense. that you could have avoided. Which you think, but I could have avoided this. This was unnecessary. Highlight that. When you have highlighted all the unnecessary expenses in red, add the total and multiply it by 12 months. Colleagues, you won't believe it. When I did that exercise, I discovered myself. But you see, it was a reminder of an experience I had had when I went to university the first time. At that time, the government was paying us loan and grant. We were given a lot of money then. And a friend of mine who was working in the bank, we were in high school together, then he went into banking, said to me, Josiah, what the government is giving you is a lot of money. And mind you, part of it is loan. The other 50% is a grant. Open PAPS C shares account with my bank, save your money. I'm glad I listened to that friend of mine. I started saving part of the money that government was giving me. By the time I finished my first degree, I had $17,000 in my account at that time. And it was a lot of money at that time. Remember, I said I'm a dinosaur. But you see, peer pressure happened. That 17,000 could have deposited a house at the time. But instead, I bought a car. Because you grew up walking, using public transport, society should see you. If you buy a house, I mean, who sees a house? They see a car, they don't see a house. So when my personal banker gave me the advice of the bank statement theory, it's like, oh, yes, this is the kind of almost similar advice that a friend of mine gave me decades back. Try that. Try the bank statement theory. This has worked for me, and I hope it will work for you. But the question is, why self-awareness? Why is it important? Do we really need it? Yes, we do. Without self-awareness, you become a silo person. There's the silo mentality. And silos basically are individuals. You want to be a T-shaped person with different skills who can fit into any situation, who is a team player. You know, self-awareness is important because we know that to err is human. But when you are self-aware, when you know your strengths and weaknesses, you limit the number of errors you make because you can make use of the strengths of other people around you where you know you have weaknesses. So self-awareness actually develops team players, and it also develops confidence. Once you become a team player and you're contributing through your strengths, and other team members are contributing through their strengths, so that the weaknesses are limited, confidence develops. And in the process, self-awareness develops high achievers who have better understanding of whatever they are doing because they are working as a team. You are exploiting your strengths. You are covering for each other's weaknesses. And in the process, those weaknesses will translate into strengths when you see how others are doing it. But because you know what you have and not have, your strengths and your weaknesses, there is room for innovation and creativity when you are self-aware. You also become thorough and conscientious because you are aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. And the business world out there is looking for a T-shaped person with T-shaped skills. To conclude, Let me conclude by what should have been the premise of my presentation, but the word key stole my attention earlier on. David Foster Wallace, in his speech to liberal arts graduates, which speech was reproduced by Mark Manson, said, we are all born with a default setting hardwired into our boards at birth. That default setting is called basic self-centeredness. It makes us think we are the center of the universe, the most real, most vivid and important person in existence. He goes on to say, the liberal arts, critical thinking in particular, has taught us how to think, to be a little less arrogant, to have just a little critical awareness of ourselves and our certainties. And I could add here, even our uncertainties. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that my presentation will guide you in a humble way on how to think, not what to think, but how to think, because the how part is the most important thing. Thank you very much. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyanda. Colleagues, friends, and I told you, he's a legend. And one thing that I've loved about ADU is that we challenge conventional wisdom. And Doc, whilst you were speaking, a quote that I've written down several years ago caught my attention. And that quote only said to me, do not limit your challenges, but challenge your limits. And I think that you've also re-emphasized and echoed the point that reading gives a man the sovereignty over his imagination, and that questions are windows to greater instruction. And the concept of self-awareness and the way you presented it, I think that we will all bear witness to a different perspective of looking at the topic. So now, please, I know we are not very many. You see, postgraduates mostly tend to think that things such as this do not matter. But to be frank and not to diminish what we have done over the years, this has been one of my best webinars. And I don't know about you. Please, we now open the floor for questions. We have about 7 minutes. But I would want to request that we add an additional 5 minutes or 10 minutes such that we can engage the good professor. So please shoot your hand. I see my colleague and my boss, Mr. Mahlati. Please shoot.
All right. Thank you very much, Desmond. And thank you, Josiah Nyanda, Doctor. I really want to agree with Desmond here. This has been one of the best webinars since the start of webinars, and not only to take away the webinars that we've had. It's just a quick one, if you can allow me, Dr. Josiah. Just a quick question to say, can one say that being authentic brings about self-confidence? Or in other words, is being self-authentic synonymous to self-confidence? And then second to that would be, how can one build confidence as they unlock their authentic self, and looking into blocking out the external pressures that one can have in the quest to break the chains of self-imposed restrictions? Thank you.
Hello, Doc. Are you there? I think you are on mute, if I'm not mistaken. Can anyone hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes. Where is Doc?
He's somewhere.
No, I think we will have to bring. That is a very, very, very great question, and I think he should be in position to help us unravel that mystery. I think we'll wait for him. I don't know if he's having. I think he's out of the meeting, but I don't know if he's having.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's having a challenge. I think I would reach out to him. Yeah, we can still be taking the questions, and then Mahlati, please hold on to that question. When the good doctor comes through, we will let him respond to that question. Any other question somebody want to ask or put there? It's rather unfortunate that one of the best presentations, a lot of people have decided to stay away.
Yeah.
It's rather unfortunate, but that is what it is. And I hope that most of you guys here, you've really, really, really learned something. Especially.
Sorry, guys, yes. I had lost you. I'm back.
I know. Good. Yes. Mahlat, please ask the question.
Yes.
Did you get the question, Doc?
No, I didn't. Please come again.
All right, not a problem. So the question was, can one say that being authentic brings about self-confidence? Or in other words, can one say that being authentic is synonymous to self-confidence? And second to that would be, how can one build self-confidence as they unlock the authentic self? And also blocking out the external pressures, be it of social media or whatever, in the quest to break the chains of self-imposed restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mahlatse, for that very important question. Indeed, when you are the authentic self, you have self-confidence and self-belief because you know who you are and you are not so much moved by what other people say about you. There is something about the way we are brought up in different cultures that denies us the opportunity to express ourselves, where you don't question elders and where you don't question seniors. And because of that, we end up losing confidence. Why? Because children, and I could add even women, in the case of what is happening in South Africa, are seen and not heard. When you are the authentic self, there is self-belief, hence there is self-confidence. In the process, you become free to express yourself as an individual. You want society to hear you. You can challenge ideas confidently, and you'll be prepared to receive criticism and responses so that you grow. You know, it's not an end unto itself, but it is the continuity of a journey where every day of your life, because you believe and because you understand yourself better, you keep on wanting to improve yourself, doing better. You are setting targets for yourself and you are competing with the self, not with the other. More often than not, people who compete with the other do not believe in themselves. They don't even understand the self. But when you understand yourself, you set targets, you know your limits. Hence, you set targets in order to surpass those targets, and you keep setting higher targets for yourself. Yes, indeed, that is the journey to authentic self and to believing in the self.
Yes, thank you so much, Josiah. I see Shamila, you had your hand raised first. Can you go for it? And then Ramadimenta. Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to declare my bias. I'm a psychologist by training. So I was very excited to see this topic. Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to make a comment rather than a question. I think it is not a surprise that there are so few people who have joined this particular webinar. Self-reflection actually is very difficult for people who are not used to it. I think in the world, most people prefer to wonder about unconscious in some ways, because it means that in fact you don't really have to take responsibility for oneself. So I'm very pleased that there are people who are here, because that means that there are people who are interested first in self-transformation. And if you are keen in self-transformation, then you can in fact transform the world. I want to concur with everything that's been said. The journey is, in fact, very worthwhile to explore and to live your authentic self. Thank you very much.
Can I comment on Shamila? Shamila, thank you for mentioning that. Self-reflection is the most difficult thing to do. We don't know that's why those mind-probing questions, are we prepared to face the real self when the real self reflects itself in the mirror? Most people are afraid of facing that. Thank you for emphasizing that, Shamila. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm so excited that we have some very great people in the house. That's very important. Yes, Rama. Let me make it short so that I don't chow your name. Please go ahead and ask your question. And I apologize for chowing your name initially.
It's okay, Desmond. It's Rama Dimeta, by the way.
Rama Dimeta. I won't forget that. Correct.
Thank you. My question is based on what Doctor touched on about the world where we're living in today. It's either you're great or you're nothing. So how do we then navigate that space of not necessarily being great and being known by the world, but then being authentic with yourself? How do we walk that path where you might not be great, or even in your quest to be the greatest person, how do you make sure that you are happy every step of the way, that you are authentic to yourself every step of the way, even if you don't reach that greatness that you think the world, that you think you deserve? Or I hope I'm making sense.
Definitely. Thank you, Rama, for raising that pertinent question. There is no hard and fast answer to that kind of question, because the pressures we receive come from different social circles, economic circles, political circles. But an understanding of the self gives you the chance then to negotiate these spaces and these pressures in society. Say, how do I navigate around this? It's first by admitting that, one, you are human and you're bound to make mistakes. Two, the ideas of greatness that are set by society, by social media, by family, by friends are the different pressures that we have to contend with. But this is the thing. We have social media. What use are we going to make of it if we are so much into social media? There are people who are using the same platforms to make money. Others are posting even when they buy meat or when they are drinking. People have to see. People use social media for different things. It is now at an individual level that you ask yourself, how do I use these platforms? How do I use these opportunities that I have? And how do I ensure that the way I negotiate the social pressures and spaces around me is such that I do not end up putting insurmountable pressure on myself as an individual? You know your strengths and your weaknesses. And the most important thing is, when you know your strengths and weaknesses, you are able then to come up and to navigate and come up with solutions to whatever challenges you come up with or you encounter. But if you encounter challenges that you think are insurmountable, and you happen to be a team player, and you know your weaknesses, you actually know where to go. You're not ashamed of yourself because you've faced the self in the mirror to say, I have limitations here. Who do I turn to? I still have life mentors at this age. I still have life mentors. I still go back to them. I ask them for advice. And that has really helped. I hope I have answered you, Rama.
Yeah, Sir Josiah, let me quickly add one thing to that. As I believe that happiness is an inside job. So it's something that we should look at. And greatness is a bit subjective. But what I want to say is that stress is force over area. And I know I'm talking to science-inclined people. So if the load that you are carrying cannot support your cross-sectional area, you have to rethink. And that is where the self introspection comes in, where you need to rethink your options and think and see, this that I'm doing, is it really worth the while? And I think it's one of great philosopher that says only a fool that doesn't change his mind. So I think that we need to look at it and ask ourselves, because whatever, if you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it also points you to a direction where you're looking at where are you currently? How do you want to get to where you want to get to? And how would you know you have arrived? I think these are questions that you should ask, because like the good doctor said, if you look at your life and something is not working for you, you ask, why am I doing what I'm doing? And where is it taking me? So I think if we can look at that and try to fix our own self from within, then we can be happy with the results that we produce. Because remember, a lot of people will see you using their own eyes. But what do you see when you see yourself? That is what you should measure yourself with. And then there is no point trying to shift the goalpost just to make somebody happy. For me, one of the things that I've gone to when I'm teaching people, I say is that I believe that I am here on earth to contribute to people's happiness. So even when I'm teaching students, I say I'm here to make sure that you are happy in the course that you are taking. So I think if you ask some of these questions, then at the end of the day, you will be happy and you will know if you have achieved that greatness. So it's all about your purpose, which the good doctor talked about. Why am I here? What am I born to do? And I believe that we are all here with a specific assignment. And I also believe that I stand to be corrected since we have a psychologist here. We are all broken somewhere. And we all need to fix that particular thing. But one is to identify and acknowledge that you have a problem. And two, find the ways to fix that problem. And I think if you do that, or we do that, then we are on the road to self-mastery. That's the little I just want to add.
Thank you, Desmond. Thank you.
Do we have any one more question? I know we are 10 minutes on top, but these are very interesting stuff for me. So as for me, I can be here and listen to the good doctor over and over and over. And I also maybe we should also try and reach out to your friends and let's tell them what they are missing. It's not always about research. For you to have the sound mind and conduct your research, you need to make sure that other part that we mostly ignore is in shape. So if we don't have any more questions, I would like to request for your permission so that we can close this webinar. But I would want to start by thanking our good doctor. These are life experiences that people get to pay to listen to, and it's been given to us freely. And I think that we would have also gleaned some wisdom from what have been delivered today. I love the fact that it was not delivered using a conventional means where they give you 10 steps to reach greatness. And when you are on the 7th step, you are asking yourself, are we there yet? I think this is something that we need to take a critical look and re-examine our lives and see if we are on track. And so, Doc, thank you so much for your time. It came at a very short notice, but you were able to put something together for us. We very much appreciate your time, your energy, and above all, your wisdom, because these things doesn't really come cheap, and we are really grateful. I also want to thank all my colleagues, Mahlate, the team. Most of these things that happen, there are a lot of people behind the scene making sure that the fuses are in the right places so that we don't have any challenge. And so I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank all my colleagues, Mike, the director of the ADU, and then the office of the dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and then also to thank all of you that have participated in today's webinar. You are the reason why we are here, and otherwise we'll be talking to a screen. We thank you all for coming, and please make it a point with us in some 2 weeks to come as we delve deeper into some of these issues. And I know that this video is recorded and now uploaded onto the Wits eLearn site. Please go and download it and listen to it again and again and again. It's like having that sweet candy that you want to be eating again and again just to make meaning out of our lives. Because after all is said and done, one question I want you to answer is, did I fulfill my destiny? Or did I come close to fulfilling it? Someone said the greatest, the richest place we have on earth is a cemetery. Those were places where dreams that were never realized, songs that people were supposed to sing never happened, books were never written. I believe that we should get to a point where we die empty. And let me also finish off by saying this. In the development theory that we talk about, for a country or a continent to develop, it requires the training of at least 1,000 per million people in the sciences. And when I mean the sciences, I'm talking about all the sciences that we can talk about. Africa is currently at 85 per million people. So it's going to take a lot of us to do the right thing, to become the best fit for what is ahead of us. And I know the road is not going to be that easy, but I think with determination and perseverance, we will get there. So thank you all for coming. Let's take a time to ponder over all the things that we've heard. And then let's wake up, fold up our sleeves, and go to work. Because we have to make ourselves proud. And then we can make our small village proud. And after we fix our village, then we can talk about our country. Thank you all for coming, and do have a wonderful evening. I will see you at the flip side. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Des.